dàbí ènìyàn arónípin. Èèyàn ìbá dàbí Ọlọ́run, wọn ìbá pé kójò máa rọ̀. Wọn ìbá ṣàyè bó ṣe fẹ́, wọn ìbá dórí ayé kodò. Wọn ìbá sábẹ́fẹ́ lówó, wọn ìbá pé kórùn máa rọ̀. Agbára ìbá fà wọ́n bí ọtí, wọn ìbá kọjú ìjà sọ́dọ̀. Ènìyàn arónípin má kú ìyà, kú òṣì. Ẹlẹ́dàá kì í gbàgbé ènìyàn, èrò rere ló ní sí wa o. Bẹ́ẹ̀nìyàn fi ra ẹ̀wé Ọlọ́run, á jẹ́ ra ènìyàn o. Erùpẹ̀ lásán ṣálájẹ́, inú Ọlọ́run ni ó sì. Ayé fetí ẹlẹ́yà o, níbo lẹ fi t'Olúwa sí o. Òjò lóṣù dẹ́dẹ́dẹ́, àwọn àna bí tó máa rọ̀ sí o.
It's a beautiful Thursday morning here in Nigeria, here in Oyo State, the southwestern part of Nigeria, and of course all across the world. It's Thursday, and okay, maybe not across the world, but in some part of the world and a part of the world where we are, it is Thursday, and the morning is beautiful. It is AM Live, coming to you from the studios of New Frontiers Television. My name is Adela Adegoke.
And I am Olajumoke Babalola. Thank you for joining us again on AM Live today, Thursday, 18th of May 2017. And well, to you, wherever it is, wherever time of the day it is, in what country you're watching us from, we say, well, do hope you're starting your day on a very wonderful note. But of course, you're assured of a smooth sail, a wonderful time on AM Live this morning. We have a lot lined up for you, and we bet you don't want to miss a part of it. So please stay with us all through till the end of the program.
Of course, we do have a lot lined up for you. And we'll first take our big stories, which is events that has happened in the last 24 hours. And one of those events is the case of the budget. Nigerians are expecting that the acting president, Osibajo, has sent to the budget passed to him. He said he will be taking his time to go through the budget and ensure that it is well detailed, and of course there are no discrepancies as it is. But away from that, another issue is arising concerning the budget. Just when we think that the 2017 fiscal year should start, there are indications that it may not start as soon as we do expect, because some agencies, as their budgets are still pending, 31 public establishments, which includes the NNPC, still has their budgets pending, and the National Assembly is issuing 2 weeks ultimatum for the agencies to submit their budgets, stating that for a while now these agencies have not been submitting budgets, which means that in 2016 they did run all of these agencies based on monies that were not approved, that there was no documentation of what was going to be spent for what. And those agencies, most of these agencies are the agencies that got the most part of the monies we have in the country.
Yes, and to think that the agencies like the Bureau of Public Enterprises, NNPC, and the rest of them are already spending monies that have not been approved by the legislature is also a thing to be concerned about. And this is why the Deputy Majority Leader, Bala Ibn Nahala, has raised the issue within the Senate and said that it's important that MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies realize that no money should be spent without its approval by the legislature. And this is why, in compliance with Section 21 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, it's important that every department, every ministry and agency gets approval for monies that needs to be spent. And they've given an ultimatum of 2 weeks to the presidency, of course, led by acting president Yemi Osinbajo, to ensure that the departments submit the proposal, the budget proposal. What with the fact that the Senate recently passed the budget last week, and they said yesterday that they were going to get across to the presidency for his perusal, is going through it thoroughly before assenting to it. And the vice president himself, acting president Osinbajo, has also said that he would ensure passage. He signs the budget when he's satisfied with the content of it. But to forestall a further delay of the passage of the budget, it's important that the necessary and concerned departments, agencies, and the ministries would submit the budget proposal such that we would have a thorough and, of course, a balanced approval of the budget, a balanced implementation of the budget, and it isn't such that some people are already spending monies that have not been approved. So yes, we're hoping that before the expiration of the 2 weeks ultimatum, the concerned agencies would submit the budget proposals. And of course, Nigeria will begin to feel the impulse of the passage of the budget. And
it's actually quite surprising that for a law that has to do with time, the budgets for all of those departments are supposed to come in at August of every financial year, the month of August for every financial year. And for the 2016 budget of some of those departments, it didn't get to the National Assembly until much later after the 2016 budget has been passed. And for weeks, even up till later part of 2016, the budgets were still with the National Assembly, trying to get the details and, of course, trying to get assent from the National Assembly. And we are hoping that there's no repeat of this. If we are saying that transparency and accountability is key. We do expect that it starts with all of these agencies, and as much as we understand that the agencies can be put on hold, of course money has to be spent, work has to go on, but again details, the money is being spent needs to be detailed, and we need to go through all of this, all of the things they have in their budgets, all of the things they're going to be doing, what the money will be used for, and what the agency wants to work with before, so that Nigerians can hold them accountable. We see the way we all take copies of the national budget to peruse, and of course the National Assembly has released their budgets also, which the people are now criticizing and making sure that we hold them accountable for every details in that budget, and we do hope that all of these agencies will do likewise. And of course we are also expecting that the national budget will be passed as soon as possible. The fiscal year 2016 has ended for now. Officially the country is not supposed to be spending any money, although we know governance can't be held just because of that. But again, things should be done at the right time, and we expect that 2 weeks wouldn't be the case of the appropriation of the 2017 budget like it happened with the Senate, when the committee didn't submit even well after the deadline was given out. And we expect that the Vice President, who is also the acting president, will look into this issue and ensure that these agencies comply with the directives of the Constitution.
And all of this is just as the Senate President Bukola Saraki says, it's in the heart of the fight against corruption, because it's restated that it's not just right for any agency to spend money without the approval and appropriation by the necessary quarters, and this is the legislature in this regard. So we're hoping that the concerned agencies will do the needful, and the presidency, led by Acting President Oshibajo, would assent to the budget, and of course we'll have every agency, ministries, department running as and when due. And of course we have the full implementation of the budget before the expiration of the 2017 fiscal year.
Yes, away from that, still on matters relating to governance, the Not Too Young to Run bill has been on for a while. It started in Nigeria, and of course the United Nations has also taken up the campaign of ensuring that the ages for Nigerians for citizens to contest for any political office should be reduced. Youth should be allowed to get involved in politics, and one of the things the campaign is based upon is that if you say at age 18 people can vote, then at a lower age too they should be able to hold office. And this bill has been with the House of Representatives, still at the lower chamber with the House of Representatives, and Nigerian youth are expecting and hoping that the bill will be passed to law towards the 2019 election. But yesterday, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, who was at the parliamentary meeting of the Nigerian youth yesterday, the Nigerian Youth Parliament held their plenary session yesterday, and the Speaker was there to tell them that the House of Representatives is working towards ensuring that the bill is passed, so that they will lower the age requirements for elective offices to ensure that youths are included in politics and leadership. Also, he mentioned that, of course, they are well aware that Nigerian youths make up the majority part of the nationals in Nigeria. We take like over 60% of the nation's population, and we do expect that, well, as it is towards 2019, this bill will be passed, and we can have a change of governance for once.
Definitely, we're expecting that. Just as France recently swore in its first youngest president, Emmanuel Macron, the rest of the world will take a cue. And of course, in the spirit of this, Speaker Yakubu Dogara has said that the hashtag not too young to run bill would be assented to, would be passed, and of course youth would be able to access and of course participate actively in the electoral process. Well, we would want to say the youth participate, but we want to ask what kind of participation youth are involved in. Oftentimes we find that youth are the ones who are used as political thugs, and of course they go on rampage for politicians who well, make promises but rarely fulfill them. But of course, we've asked for a long time. The US is saying that it's going to be reducing the voting age to 17. They removes motions for that in the United States for a reduction of the electoral age to 17. What also, considering the fact that countries like Norway, New Zealand, and the rest of them have citizens who can begin to, well, vie for electoral offices as early as the age of 18. Why can't Nigeria follow also in that line? If at the age of 18 I can actually vote, make a decision, I should also be able to contest for elections and be voted for. But of course, we know that Nigeria, you cannot contest for the office of the presidency or vice president if you're not 40. And of course, you cannot contest for the office of the Senate president if you're not 35, and the House of Rep if you're not 30. Which of course means that I need to stay. If I am 18, I could vote for those who are within the age brackets of 40 and then 35, 30, and I cannot be voted for. But of course, we realize that youths are getting, every day they're getting so intelligent, involved in the activities in their countries and their communities. It means that they would do well if they got into governance, if they were allowed to contest for elections. This the Not Too Young to Run bill, we should remind you that it's been sponsored by Tony Nwulu, and youth across the country are asking that we just don't want this to stop at the lower chamber. We want that this actually becomes a law, because it would alter sections 65, 106, 131 and 177 of the Nigerian Constitution and make for an inclusive electoral process, one in which youth can rightly decide who they want to vote for, and they can also be voted for, basically. So we're hoping that the Speaker's words would promise, if I could use the word, would act through, would play through, and of course would have, towards the 2019 elections, youth who can rightly contest for elections and be voted on the platform of integrity and the knowledge, accurate knowledge of what true governance and democracy entails.
It is also important to let you know that while this bill is aimed at reducing the eligibility age for elective offices, it is also interested in working towards independent candidacy as it is in our electoral process, which would be, for me, it will be a good thing for Nigerian democracy. But away from all of that, we'll take a break and we come back with more big stories.
Thank you very much for staying with us. The program is still AM Live, and just before we took the break, we had looked at the issues, of course, within the National Assembly. What would the Senate has given an ultimatum of 2 weeks to the presidency to ensure that agencies who have been spending money not appropriated or approved by the Senate, the legislature particularly, would submit the budget in 2 weeks. And of course, we looked at the Not Too Young to Run bill, which the Gara, Speaker of the House of Representatives, says would be passed into law as soon as it can be done. We're not looking at another very important issue, which is around police brutality in those states. There's been news, of course, on every media as to how the police official had chained a man, a civilian, to the van, pulling him in the moving vehicle. And of course, the civilian, another resident of the area who had filmed the whole incident with his phone, had also been detained by the police. This is coming just in the time when we been looking at the fact that members of security agencies have been involved in some acts of civilian brutality. Another issue is on in Edo State, and we're only hoping that the police authority and concerned persons will take this up, and of course the perpetrators of this act would be thoroughly investigated and sanctioned if need be.
Well, while the police might have a justification for arresting the man who was a driver of who is a driver of a public transport, and but again, for me, they lost every right for them, every right they had when they decided that they were going to handcuff the man to their vehicle and pull him on the road in a moving vehicle. The man was, just to give you a basis of the story, a passenger in the vehicle was accusing of dropping India. The passenger escaped, but the driver was detained because of this. And it wasn't just detained; he was handcuffed to the police van and it was moved. Residents raised eyebrow concerning the issue. People who were trying to rescue the men were brutalized by the policemen until some other policemen came to the scene and, of course, rescued all of the people involved. But while we can say those people are policemen, and of course, for me, I don't think, although there are indications that investigation will take place, but for policemen who were in Mufti to arrest a man like them, who happens to be a civilian, and of course because they are policemen, and to drag him on the face is an inhuman thing to do. And I keep saying it, policemen can't appear in public in Mufti and you expect people to listen to you or do as they are told to do, because we've seen even people wear uniform of policemen and they end up being fake polices. So you don't expect that policemen would even wear mufti around the neighborhood. Is something I do not approve of again. But this act is becoming rampant. There are lots of brutality going on in our states. There was a case also in Ekiti State some times ago when a woman who as a child was brutalized by the police. And this thing keeps happening, and the Nigerian police seems not to be doing anything about it. We keep hearing about investigation going on, and and it keeps happening. If there have been discipline and sanctions for people for defaulters, I don't think it should be a rampant case, but it's happening in Edo State over the weekend, and it is a big issue that I think they should be warned about these things.
Really, I couldn't agree with you any less, Yola. They really should be warned. And just a couple of days ago, Monday precisely, Tuesday, we had looked at the fact that discipline should be built in members of our security agencies, whether the military, the police, and every other force. We should ensure that they understand that the first function, the first responsibility is the protection of lives and properties. And of course, while there are security agents that need to go around in Mufti, whether or not you have to wear uniform or not, you should think that my first point of call is the protection of lives and properties. Even if it were in the case of a suspected criminal or criminal activity, the people therein are still suspect, and there is no law that says that any police officer, any member of the military force could go on to brutalize any civilian for whatever reason at all. But another concerning issue that raised so much concern is the fact that the efforts by journalists to speak to the spokesman of the Edo State Police, in person of DSP Moses Nkombe, failed. The effort failed because the DSP had declined to give comments. And of course, while he is in the position as a spokesman of the police command to at least give some response to the issue, it's an issue that's already on Facebook and it's actually gone viral on several social media platforms. The police hold Nigeria, not just the citizens of Edo State, Nigerians a responsibility to ensure that this case isn't swept under the rug, but that the perpetrators of the act indeed face the face the law, the ones who enforce that the law is carried out, the orders and the law within the constitutions are enforced. We would hope that if these people indeed are found guilty, they would face the wrath of the law, which they should be enforcing. But again, we should sound this over and over, that if you're a policeman, if you're a soldier, a naval officer, an NSCDC official, whatever office you hold, your responsibility is the protection of people, land borders for the military, and of course properties should be that you protect all of these things, not that at every slightest sight of criminal activities you take it into your hands upon yourself to punish offenders who even haven't been declared guilty of the crime you suspect them of. We're hoping that every agency would again reorientate the officials as to understanding what the first point of call should be, and we're hoping that the people involved in this heinous activity by the police would get justice, so that we do not have this whole issue repeat itself over and over and people just get away with doing the wrong thing.
Yes, for me, that would just be it. This is a call for justice for the driver who was dragged on the roads in a moving vehicle, and for the people who were brutalized for trying to help the driver, and of course for the many Nigerians who have suffered one fate or the other in the hands of policemen. When the police tell you police is your friend, the first thing I ask is my friends who don't treat people, who don't treat me the way you treat people. So if we are saying, if we want the people to trust the system should also be able to earn the trust of people. Trust is not something you ask people to give to you. It's something you earn by the hearts that you give. Away from all of that, we'll take a break and we'll return to him like very soon.
And now we're moving on to a morning brief segment where we took a look at headlines from within the major Nigerian papers this morning. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, unbrutalized alert, UK Ohanaeze, ACF PDP warn soldiers against coup. Military should deal early with politicking soldiers, says CDHR CACOL. Details on page 3. And just above the nameplate, Nigeria can't progress under current political system. And this is coming from Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Details are on page 13. $43.3 million cash. I won't appear before you, Emefiele tells reps. You find details on page 43. Away from that, still an update on the coronary result of the late Senator Adeleke. Pathologist rules out poison. Family threatens to sue CMD. Details on page 10. How we rescued the release of 103 Chibok girls. Negotiator. Another school girl regains freedom. That's on page 12. Dangote Adenuga orders can end poverty in Nigeria, and this is coming in a report by Oxfam International. You find more details on this headline on page 29. Away from that, Senate to make NHIS compulsory for Nigerians engages stakeholders. For more details, check page 43. EFCC arraigns whistleblowers for giving false information. That's on page 39. Still, for more headlines, we're working to retain petrol at 145 naira, and this is by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Ibe Kachuku. For more details, turn to page 23. Anger as Edo policeman handcuffed driver to patrol van. You find more details on pages 4 and 5. Wouldn't ask PDP members to defect. This is coming from McAfee, Ahmed McAfee. And a picture insert here were showing the inauguration of the Jubilee Bridge in Lagos in celebration of the Jubilee anniversary of Lagos State. It's the 4th mainland bridge, and of course it looks really good. Finally, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, private jets and Africa's habit of underdevelopment. Just take the headline over again. Private jet and Africa's habit of underdevelopment. And this is on Thursday with Abimbola Adelakun. That's the mulch on the front and back pages of the Punch newspaper.
Moving on to the Guardian newspaper. Senate outspending by 38 federal agencies gives ultimatum to submit budget estimates. We've done so, insists CBN and the IC. Lawmakers invite FRLS others over alleged $5 billion tax fraud. The tales of the story continues on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. While Wisha delivers flower to President Buhari in London, and there's a picture inside of a man delivering what's a bouquet of flower and what looks like a get well soon card to the president at the Abuja House in London. Details of the story also continues on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Pray, not Sanusi's road to Golgotha. This is the Grandmaster with Yakubu Mohammed. Edo State and the DC to partner on Benin Abraka Road. Adeleke didn't die of poisoning, says pathologist. The Lincoln and John Kennedy puzzle. That's from Abdul Rafiu. That's the march on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
And on to more news from the inside pages of the Punch newspaper. Federal government, Obasanjo condemn Ivorian soldiers protest, sue for peace. And still for more news, Lagos State government seek ways to end Ogun River flooding. Will boost economy with infrastructure. This is still coming from Lagos State. And finally, court rules in PSP operators suit against Lagos, June 22. That's the march from the news column.
On the inside page of the Punch newspaper, of the Guardian newspaper, Buhari's absence may stall presidential assent to 2017 budget. Osibajo fails to swear in new ministers. Federal Executive Council approves 46.15 billion naira for dam projects. Broadband penetration soars as more Nigerians seek slash in data tariffs. And still on news column of the Guardian newspaper, Nigeria lost 3.8 trillion naira in 2016 to theft and pipe vandalism. $480 billion stolen from Nigeria in 54 years. This is coming from a report by Chatham House. 60 million Nigerians, 1.8 billion people globally are hypertensive, says experts. And finally, from the JAMB, that's the Joint Admission Matriculation Board. Check your email for results. JAMB advises candidates. Lawyers sues exam board for alleged violation of applicants' human rights.
And on to the editorial letters and viewpoint column. Prioritize a lot not to be taken lightly. On the letters, DRC, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo Ebola outbreak, lessons from West Africa. And finally, from viewpoint, wanted a national strategy to tackle hypertension.
Okay, moving on to the opinion column of the Guardian newspaper. When will Nigerians be angry? This is a question from Musa Toyi Bolani. Is corruption the problem with Nigeria? This is a sequel that continued from yesterday's paper. Still on opinions, Saraki Dogara and corruption. Is the black man still evolving? This is another question that begs for answer. And on editorial column, lessons from Macron's election, breaking the African's bondage. That's the much from editorial letters and opinion columns of the Guardian newspaper.
And on to the business and economy from the Punch newspaper. Submit CBN others budget in 2 weeks, Senate tells Oshimbajo. And on to business and economy still. Dangote Adenuga, others can end poverty in Nigeria. And this is from a report by Oxfam International, which says that the richest man in Nigeria actually earns 8,000 times more in one day than a poor Nigerian citizen does. SON, which is the Standards Organization of Nigeria, SON, to destroy products that fail MANCAP tests. Climate change, Lake Chad drying up, says WASCAL. WASCAL is the West African Science Service Center on Climate Change. And finally, Kano Fuel Depot resumes operation.
Moving on to Guardian business. Government receives 11 trillion naira from SPDC JVs, that's the Shell Petroleum JVs, in 4 years. Nigeria, Morocco, still packed on gas projects, fertilizer initiative. And still on business, Pengasan pickets energy over workers' welfare. AXA Mansard Pensions appoints Bello as non-executive director. Foreign Business School empowers African youths. And finally, the Senior Staff Association of Universities, new ESCO, assures members of welfare. And just to quickly take this, Lagos trains 5,000 employees in 12 months, says commissioners, pays pensioners 11.75 billion naira in 1 year. That's much from Guardian Business for today.
And just to look at headlines from the Morning Column of the Punch newspaper, Naira closes at 385 naira against a dollar. Skybank customer wins 1 million naira in promo. Bank of Industry to finance the Borno MSMEs with 2 billion naira. Wando, 24 others drive 291 billion naira market gain. And some headlines from the Energy Column. No respite for Magboro orders as NIPP project stalls. Finally, LCCI empowers women with cooking gas cylinders.
Moving on to Science and Health column. Anti-HIV progress under threat. NACA intensifies efforts to increase financing, ownership and sustainability. Life expectancy in persons with virus near normal with treatment. UK candidate David Nabarro promises shake-up in World Health Organization. Now on natural health, more natural remedies for hypertension validated. Scientists endorse herbal cures for high blood pressure. That's much from Health and Science column.
And now on the bar and bench news, Sokoto Judiciary to repeal obsolete law. Tenure CCB, which is the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, appeals judgment. Our federal government can help to rebuild Northeast. Lawyer sues JAM, demands 3.4 billion naira. Finally, EFCC arrests 2 whistleblowers over false information. That's the mod from Bar and Bench News.
Moving on to Guardian Education. Ivory Tower in the throes of corruption scandals. This is against the backdrop of the corruption in federal universities. Moving on, appraising JAM's approach to eliminate examination fraud with new innovations. First private varsity takes off in Cross River State. Alumni gives back to alma mater, reinvents exams and record units. Covenant tops in research and endeavor among university. When EFCC beams searchlights on university administrators. And finally, on the education column, Osun introduces education marshals to enhance discipline in schools.
And finally, on Punch Sport, Adamasingba, Oyo revokes swimming pool contract. We are taking a report from one of the dailies as to how reptiles were taking over the swimming pool in the Adamasingba Stadium. But now it's good news that the contract has been revoked. Lewandowski eyes recording deal. Messi higher than Ronaldo, says Puyol. Still from sport, Herbert Macaulay, Bariga eats Okpaifa Cup semis. Dele Ali keeps Tottenham guessing. And finally, Millwall, Ibonyi, Bayelsa emerge champions. And that's the more from Punch Sports for today.
Moving to Guardian Sports, the curious case of boxing. Nothing has changed in Nigeria's Women Football League. No more France camp for Eagles. Team to return on May 28th. Nazi sure of Europa Cup slots as Lazio hosts Inter in Serie A. And finally, too early to bet on Continental Basketball League playoffs, says Yaoundé Giants captain. That's the much for Guardian Sports for today.
We'll go on a break and return just to take a look at one of the headlines from the papers. Please stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still AM Live in our morning brief segment within the program. A headline from the Punch newspaper, which has it that Senate is working to make NHIS compulsory for Nigerians, and they're engaging stakeholders on this issue. Report has it that 13 years after the establishment of the National Health Insurance Scheme, Senate has sitting to review it, and of course there is a bill to that effect, which is the National Health Insurance Commission Bill 2017, and all of this is an effort to make health services affordable to a large extent to Nigerians. We said over and over how it is that Nigerians, especially for those who can afford it, would readily leave the shores of the country to seek for medical help within countries outside of Nigeria. But the Senate is saying that it's important that we moved beyond a health service, a health scheme, which provides treatment only when patients pay for services. But that we should move on to a system where you can readily afford the charge that's billed out to you when you go for medical checkup under the new scheme of the National Health Insurance Commission, which again is I think a very good one from the Senate, all in the bid to make health services affordable, accessible, and cheap for Nigerians.
Yes, I think ours is like one of the few countries that do not have an health insurance, a federal health insurance scheme for their citizens. We've seen all these private health insurance scheme come up and people have been registering, but the NHIS scheme is one scheme that seems to be doing so well. For people who are under the scheme, they've been enjoying many benefits concerning health issues, and we would expect that all Nigerians have access to that, because again we understand that there's some major health challenges that happens to people, and the money is not there to help. Oftentimes we see cases of people going on the social media, on pages of newspaper, on TVs and radios to campaign for support for people who are involved in either accidents or they need they're going through a major surgery and they need the money. But if there's a provision for health insurance that covers maybe half of the bill, I don't think most Nigerians would. I think it will reduce mortality rates for one. I think it will reduce mortality rates, and it will encourage people to go to hospital more. You realize that, and they keep blaming us. People blame us that, oh, why do you go to the counter to get drugs? Why do you go to somebody near your house to ask for medical solution? But when we know how much hospital charges when you go for, just because you want to find out what is wrong with you. You're not even sure what is wrong with you first, which will go up another money. But just for you to find out what's wrong with you, for you to go for a diagnosis is something that gobs a lot of money, which is why most Nigerians take the easy way out. People just assume that, oh, I'm not feeling so well, the next thing is pain reliever, and which is the wrong thing to do. With a new initiative about making the health insurance a thing for everyone, I think that would make people go to the hospital more. It will reduce the like I said earlier, mortality rates and the rates at which people cause damages to themselves, because we've seen cases of people get expired drugs all because they don't want to go to the hospital, they want to buy off the counter, and people have died using expired drugs. Recently, we were talking about the recent increase in expired drugs, and you'll be surprised at how often people pick up expired drugs on the counter. And I think the person making that statement that day was now telling us that most Nigerians we don't even pay attention. You just buy off the counter, and for tablets that are not even in sachet, they are not in packs, so you don't even know.
Those are counted.
So you can't ask for the container to check for the expiry date. So people are more susceptible to causing damages to themselves through that means. But with this new initiative, and for me, it's not just about saying you want to do it. It's about when are you going to doing it, and when it's not something that should be like a futuristic thing. Something that should happen now. It should happen now, and I'm really looking forward to that, to ensure a safe environment for Nigerians.
Yes, ensuring we're working to ensure a safe environment for Nigerians. That's the much we'll be taking on our program, the segment, our morning brief segment this morning. Please stay with us as we move on to the news desk to allow in for the morning news. Afterwards will be our interview. Stay with us. Good morning and thank you for joining us on our morning news from New Frontiers Television. Following the absence of clarity on Wednesday afternoon as to who would sign the 2017 budget after its transmission to the executive by the National Assembly, the presidency last night said acting President Yemi Osinbajo would assent to this year's spending bill. Reacting to the remark by the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, who after the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting said that the federal government would take a decision on who would sign the 2015-17 budget when it is transmitted, Osinbajo's media aide Laolu Akande took to his Twitter handle at Kande OJ list late last night, saying that his principal would assent to the budget if he is satisfied with the budget. The Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Ibe Kachikwu, has stated that the federal government will revisit the pricing modulation model introduced in 2016 and remove the multi-layer charges on importation of petroleum product to maintain the pump price of petrol at the current 145 naira per litre. This is coming as the Chief Operating Officer downstream at the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, Mr. Henry Ikemobi, had stated that the July 1st, 2017 target for the importation of higher grades of petroleum products with lower sulfur content into the country has been shifted to September 2017. Kachikwu further stated that the federal government will find a way to ensure that the modulation model allows Nigerians to enjoy a windfall when the price of crude oil goes down and limited exposure when the price goes up in the international market. The Federal High Court in Gusau, Zamfara State, has cleared the chairman of the Zamfara State Universal Basic Education Board, Alhaji Murtala Adamu Jangebe, of corruption and money laundering. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, had filed a suit against Jangebe in 2015, accusing him of misappropriation of funds to the tune of 1 billion naira. In her judgment, Justice Zainab Abubakar quashed the 10 counts charge preferred against him, stressing that none of the charges were validated, while others lacked evidence beyond reasonable doubt for criminal prosecution. Justice Abubakar held that counts 1 to 5 cannot be sustained since the charges under Section 15, subsection 2A and D of the Money Laundering Act have been expunged in Money Laundering Amendment Act 2012. She averred that conviction could only be made when an offense had been defined and penalty prescribed in a written law. The Senate committee investigating allegations of fraud amounting to about $5 billion by Chevron Nigeria Limited has summoned officials of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, National Petroleum Investment Management Service, NAPIMS, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. Also expected to appear before the committee are officials of Chevron to defend allegations made against the company. Speaking at the inauguration ceremony of the committee yesterday, the chairman, Senator Magnus Abe, gave the assurance that all those concerned would be granted the right to fair hearing. Inaugurating the committee, Minority Leader Senator Godswill Akpabio gave the committee members the charge to be independent and fair to all. Following misconceptions and inquiries across the market about items valid for accessing foreign exchange from the Interbank, the Central Bank of Nigeria has listed the eligible items that are valid. The CBN, in the circular signed by its Director, Trade and Exchange Department, W.D. Gotring, listed 35 sets of items valid for Forex and urged authorized dealers to ensure compliance. According to the latest circular, the items included animal or fats or vegetable fat and oil fractions, hydrogenated, prepared glues and adhesive based on polymers of eddies 39.01 to 39.13 or on rubber, other plates, sheets, film, foil, and strip of polymers of ethylene printed only for pharmaceutical manufacturing, and bobbins, spools, cups, and similar supports of paperboard and of kinds used for winding textile yarn. Some others listed were uncoated craft paper and board in rolls, synthetic filament yarn, textured yarn of nylon or other, polyamide, measured per single yarn more than 50 text, woven fabrics of synthetic filament yarn, including woolen fabrics obtained from material. With this report, we've come to the end of the morning news from New Frontiers Television. AM Live continues just after the news. I am Olajumoke Babalola. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much for staying with us. The program is still AM Live, and a couple of minutes ago we just took out news from the news desk. But now on to our interview segment. In Nigeria and the world across, the rate of violence is becoming really worrisome. But more worrisome is the rate at which domestic violence is increasing. At least 3 out of every 10 Nigerian women, records has it that 3 out of 10 women in Nigeria have been violated one way or the other from as early as at the age of 15. And of course, we do know that Nigeria has the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which was passed into law in May 2015. But despite all of this record and of course the act, the issue of domestic violence is still on the increase. But this morning, to look into the issue of domestic violence with me on the program is Barrister Segun Olonade, who is a legal practitioner. He'll be sharing his thoughts and of course through more insights as regards to law into the issue of domestic violence. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure.
Well, as a legal practitioner, I'm sure you would have had to look into issues of domestic violence one time or the other. But to you and from a legal perspective, how would you term domestic violence? Is it just limited to an act of violence from a husband against the woman, the wife, or now we have the woman also throwing out violence against the husband? Is it just between married couple? Could you help expatiate on the issue of domestic violence?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bawala. It's my pleasure to be here on the station once again. Talking about domestic violence is actually a very sensitive and very important subject in our society, because every day, we keep complaining about the rate of crimes in our society. We keep complaining about teenage or youth delinquency. We keep complaining about poor leadership. And it is my humble submission or opinion that domestic violence is actually at the roots of a lot of these issues. Because to answer your question directly, domestic violence has to do with intimate relationship between some individuals, particularly in the family. It could be from wife to husband, though more rare, but it's more from husband to wife, and then from either of the partners, either of the married couples to the children, that encompasses this concept of domestic violence.
Okay.
And okay.
No, please continue. I thought you were finished.
And when you look at the word violence, it has to do with force.
Okay.
It has to do with as if the domestic violence doesn't necessarily have to be actually violent per se.
Like a physical attack on
yeah,
someone.
It doesn't have to be physical. The physical attack, which is assault, is a strong part of it. But you could also have other forms of mild domestic violence. For example, I was just going through the dictionary, and it says that domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain power or control over another person with the mind of gaining one thing or the other. And it says it could include intimidation, manipulation, humiliation, isolation, fright, using words or body language that induces fright in others, to terrorize, to coerce, to threaten, to blame, to hurt, to injure, or to wound someone.
Wow, such an expansive
quite broad
activity on the domestic violence.
Exactly.
But it's actually shocking to realize that this whole series of activity which you've rolled out seem to be similarly socially acceptable, because the U.S. Department of State country reports that in Nigeria, human rights practices, in Nigeria, the human rights practices have confirmed that domestic violence seems to be just one of the things that ensue in the Nigerian community, such that it's become socially acceptable. And that's why you see They often tell you, you don't meddle in the affairs of a man and a woman who are married. When the man shouts at the woman, because of course you're assumed, where it's understood that they're the heads of the family, the woman should keep quiet. And since you've included the fact that your words could also be, harsh words in this context, could also be a form of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And the woman is shouted at, or the woman shouts at the man in this in some regard. And the fact that the society just thinks it's one of those things. The woman should be submissive. You don't talk back at your husband. I'm not saying the women should, but the fact that we've just come to accept this issue in the society, why should that be? The fact that the society just thinks it's one of those things. And this case is often swept under the rug, unless it leads to death or it's leads to some severe brutality, just as we had in 2011 when late Titilayo was said to have been stabbed by her husband. That's like the first major record of domestic violence. Why does it seem that the society is coming to accept this issue and would keep quiet about it unless it's a case that has led to death?
As a matter of fact, I think we have religious inhibitions, we have cultural inhibitions, we have economic inhibitions, and seriously speaking, there are issues that are very, very crucial, particularly in Nigeria. Outside Nigeria, if a man dares, harasses a woman, or does anything against a child, or even a woman, does anything against a child, maybe abuse the child or do anything, the law enforcement there is so very strict. But Nigeria is more in the rule than the observance. We just make rules, we don't follow them. And I believe strongly, in answer to your question, that we need to begin to educate and empower our women, because women their hearts are closely knitted to their kids. So most women, apart from cultural, economic and other inhibitions that I mentioned, women particularly need to be informed, they need to be empowered, they need to be educated to understand that there are certain bounds that a man is not supposed to get into. And if it does, because the problem with domestic violence, and that is why it is called violence, it always starts small. It starts small and it builds. All of those inhibitions keep gathering until one day it bursts out. And then you hear a woman has killed her husband, this has happened. But if you go to the genesis, the root of the entire thing, it might be the cumulative effect of years of domestic harassment and torture and economic denial that has brought the woman to the point of breaking up, because it's quite unnatural to just see somebody come up one day with a knife or something and kill the other person. So the issue of domestic violence is quite deep, and there are things that the society should work on from the different sectors: the legal aspect, the economic aspect, empowering women, the agricultural aspect, every form, including media. Media also has a big role to play in curbing and stemming the tide of domestic violence that is daily growing in our country. Thank
you very much. Now, several reasons have been said to be responsible for domestic violence. One of the reasons being an opinion by one of the Nigerian artists saying that poverty is one reason men would go all out of the way to eat a woman or harass the woman, as it were. She spoke on the side of defending the woman. But I'd like to ask you, is there any particular justifiable reason for domestic violence?
There's no justifiable reason for domestic violence, but we actually need to take a look at our background in Nigeria. I discovered that it starts from parents when we were very young. The kind of way our parents brought us up, shouting, hey, some people will even go to the extent of cursing children. Some, I know, some people that they find it very difficult to pay their kids compliments. Everything is, you have not done it well, you have not done it well, you have not done it well, you have not done it well. and the child grows up with a poor self-image, which is one of the consequences, the resultant effects of domestic violence. And when somebody has low self-image, when somebody does not have innate confidence in himself or herself, it leads to other things. Talking about the economic, poverty aspect of it, it's very true. The men are always the breadwinners, as they say. Even if a woman is working, the woman's primary goal is the interest of her kids. She wants to take care of them, she wants to provide for them, but the man will go to north, south, east and west to gather resources, and the woman is at home. Even if the wife is working, which is very, very important to be able to stem the tide of domestic violence, wives should work and wives should continue to read. No woman should say, because I'm married, I'll go and sit down in one man's house, and because even if he has a billion naira, sorry to use the word, the wife should keep working, should keep acquiring knowledge, should keep educating herself, because if the breadwinner, the stick of the family breaks,
you step in to support if you're empowered.
Exactly. So empowering women is a major issue society has to address.
But you've actually addressed the issue of the woman being a strong support in the family. I'd like you to look more to the fact that oftentimes it's usually that the women tend to be doing more because the man probably lost his job or isn't able to meet the family need because he doesn't earn as much as the woman does. What would you say about a man not giving in to tantrums or temper just because you're not able to meet your needs and you have a woman who is willing to probably support you? What would you say about men yielding to the pressure from not having enough to harass or give in to domestic violence?
Well, I would say this. Women have a duty to support their husbands.
Yes.
If the husband has an issue, maybe at his place of work, he lost his job or he's not earning as much as the wife, if there's understanding in the marriage and the wife, like you were talking about the issue of submission, submission is dual, is on both sides, the husband and the wife. If they have a good relationship, there should be no stress, there should be no problem. It is the love they have for themselves that should be able to steer them through that season until the man begins to earn more, and it should not become an issue. But the thing with men is that men are driven by success, whether we like it or we don't like it. There is this natural thing about go bring out for me, go bring that kind of sentiment we have. And no, and every little thing he will even misinterpret what the woman does innocently, to help. Hey, is it because of your money? Hey, is it because of this? And tantrums and other things, setting.
Thank you very much. Now we tend not to report the issue of domestic violence. Oftentimes, other family members would say, would you want your husband or the wife, just in case it doesn't lead to that, but we would rather want it settled amicably, just so it doesn't get out into the public. And then this is why we often see that women or men in some cases would give in to all of the pressures about to surmount just because families say don't talk about it. Why don't we talk about this? Why do we refuse to speak out when there's violence?
I think it's basically cultural. Apart from the normal human tendency for privacy, everybody likes privacy. Nobody really wants other families, the public getting to know what happens in your home. They say the grass is always greener from the other end. They are also passing through their own issues. So why should mine become a subject of public? But really, when domestic violence gets to a very serious point, the woman must be wise and must be rightly cancelled. The idea of the pastor or the clergy saying, go and be managing, go and be perching, go and be managing until one day, particularly if it involves the physical. But it's not just the physical, it's all round, because eventually the emotional, the economic and other ones can also, go into the physical. And that's why a woman from the onset of her life must prepare for plan B. That if this is happening, harassment, this, that, she begins to make plans. In case anything happens, she wants to read more, she wants to get better job, she wants to talk, The idea of don't talk, and then there are counselors, there are pastors. Some people are even afraid of talking to pastors. And then some husbands will say, the day you tell the pastor is the day you walk out of my house. It can be that serious. And a woman should not allow it. There can be separation. Separation is different from divorce. Divorce is where the marriage is scattered and all that, and in the court. But you can move out of the house, and you can have judicial separation, in court, and you can have normal separation that is not judicial separation. They are all workable. And then over time, the man can come to his senses when he sees how much value this woman is to the home, his kids. Is it the one that will bathe for the children and take them to school and all that? It will collapse, and his work will be affected. So you will not go back and say, my dear, I'm very sorry. I now realize, and that happens a lot. The man will go back, the woman will come in, the man will go back, the woman will come in, and the man will repeat the same thing again and again. That's why I believe in life. A woman should have plan A, plan B, plan C, if possible, plan D.
So most importantly, men, children who feel they're being violated should talk out.
Very, very
Thank you very much. Now, you already introduced the legal aspect where you say, fine, if there's a life-threatening case with regards to domestic violence, it's necessary that either of them take some time out and allow for the other to come back to the right senses.
Exactly.
Nigeria has the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which was passed into law 2015, and of course we have several other domesticated laws within states.
Even outside Nigeria, there are international treaties,
exactly.
On abuse of women, abuse of children, domestic violence. There are a plethora of legislations.
And of course, every November 25th, we celebrate the day for the elimination of violence against women. But of course, it doesn't look like the law we have is commiserating to the reduction or increase, as it were, of domestic violence. What would you say about the implementation? How well has the law against violence against people, against persons, how much implementation have we had in regards to those laws?
Very poor. Very, very, very poor. And it's sad. And it has to do with human value. Human value in Africa is so low. Anybody can die, anything can happen to anybody, it's just one of those things. And that kind of psyche, that kind of a mental frame is not good at all. We need to have a new orientation. And I think the media has a big role to play in this. Because if you keep having instances of domestic violence, and these instances kept on being repeated, being broadcast on radio, on TV, in newspapers, and so on, I believe that people will begin to take caution, because Nigerian law generally is more in the making than in the observance. We just make the laws, but we don't follow them. And it's more so in the aspect of, in the area of domestic violence. We don't implement those laws, we just make them.
It's important that every law, inclusive of the laws that protect against violations of human rights, are duly implemented.
Very important.
I'd like us to go back again to the family. In this season, we're in a time where economically we're not stable. And of course, from the social media angle and on the newspaper, every other day we find reports of domestic violence. I'd like you to suggest, both from the legal perspective and from every other angle, how do we, in a time like this, control ourselves such that we do not give in to the pressure that around us to hurt the other person?
Thank you very much. That's a very big question. There's no one single answer, but I would suggest very strongly that the government tries as much as possible to enforce the rule of law. Children should be free to report domestic violence. Women should be free to report domestic violence, because these are the two categories of people in society that are far more affected, that are far more vulnerable than the male gender in our society. That's the first thing. The second thing is to appeal to our religious leaders, Muslims, Christians, traditional worshippers and all that, to do more. Let's do more of teaching people, and teaching people holistically. Talking about domestic violence, the need for love in family and all that, and also teaching women to go out there and work. Teach women to go out there and, even kids. If you travel abroad, you see kids in secondary school who are working. But in Nigeria, it's always book. But it's not so in enlightened nations. From secondary school, kids go to work on weekends, barber job and all that. And so they learn to be independent from childhood. And when kids are working part-time, women are working, and the men are also working. Everybody is providing. So the rate of poverty reduces, the rate of economic pressure reduces, and you discover that, society is more stable generally. So these are some of the suggestions I can offer right now.
Thank you very much. So little time to talk about this big issue, but we're so glad you really could come, Barrister Olonode. Domestic violence is an issue that, we would have to keep talking about until individuals, whether man, woman, father, mother, husband, wife, whatever you are, children, understand that you hold yourself the right to respect the rights of the other person, and of course protecting it. Some states have domesticated the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. Lagos has its domestic and sexual violence response team in the likes of it. But just in case you feel you're being threatened, just in case you feel you're close to your right being violated, there are particular helplines you could call. And of course, the free numbers for violation of girls and women is, you could write this down just in case you have someone around you who also is going through some violence. 080-072-732255. And of course, for Project Alert, you have the 0805-200-4698. Again, I take the number. For numbers to call in case you have a woman or girls or anybody being violated, the number to call is 080-072-732-255. And of course, you could also put calls through to 0805-004698. Let's help save a life. And of course, you could be saving your life in the process. Thank you very much for staying with us on the program today. It's been a wonderful time on AM Live. My guest has been Barrister Segun Olonode, who is a legal practitioner. Thank you for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your day. God bless you. I am Olajumoke Babalola.
Atari tó láyà sí fọ́. dàbí ènìyàn ènìyàn arónípin. èèyàn ìbá dàbí ọ̀run wọn ìbá pé kójò máa rọ̀. wọn ìbá ṣàyè bó ṣe fẹ́ wọn ìbá dórí ayé kọ́kọ́ wọn ìbá sábẹ́fẹ́ lówó wọn ìbá pé kórùn máa rọ̀. agbára ìbá fà wọ́n bí ọtí wọn ìbá kọjú ìjà sọ́dọ̀. ènìyàn arónípin ẹ má kú ìyà ẹ kú òṣì. ẹlẹ́dá kì í gbàgbé ènìyàn èrò rere ló ní sí